Thank you for listening. This is the Legends podcast by All Day Vinyl, and I'm your host, Scott Dudelson. After you finish this episode, please subscribe, rate, and check us out on Instagram and YouTube at All Day Vinyl. Today, I'm excited to speak with a true legend, a founding member of one of the great San Francisco bands of the late 1960s, incredible songwriter, guitar player, and cool dude, Peter Lewis of the Moby Grape. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming here. So you've had a long and storied career, and we're going to start from the current and move our way back. I know
Good.
last
Yeah,
year,
that's better. Yeah, I like that better.
I like that too.
I don't like people saying, okay, well, start from the beginning. I said, that's too, it's like if you do that with something, you got to be able to back engineer something to really understand it.
All right. So Imagination, which you released last year, and you wrote a number of the songs with John DeNicola. And just for
Right.
context, for our listeners, John wrote two of probably the biggest pop songs maybe ever from the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. I've Had the Time of My Life and Hungry Eyes, just pop gems. And I want to ask you about what it's like to co-write with John. How does that collaboration work, and how did the Imagination record come to fruition?
Well, it's like anything I do, it's like got to be inspired by, like a situation. And he showed up at one gig I think we played in New York 2 times as a kind of last permutation of Moby Grape, of which there have been many. It's like, anyway, so at this one permutation, we played New York, and here comes John DeNicola. And I got to know because he was, he got backstage because he's smart, so he knows how to, if he wants to meet you, he will, kind of guy. And so I met him, and he could play. He's also a musician. He's not just a fan. So next time we played there, I had him playing a keyboard part on a song that Skip Spence wrote, and that I liked it. We were doing all our favorite songs at that point, from a long history of having made these records that nobody ever bought. So the people that were our fans were all at this gig in New York. And so it was real crowded. And the gig came off, and John played keyboard on this one tune. It was a real creepy song about when Skip Spence, who had, just for historical reference, was the first drummer for the Jefferson Airplane. But Jefferson Airplane was using him because he had cool hair, not because he was really a guitar player, songwriter, singer, but they liked him because his hair was cool. And so Barney Ballin saw him at the Matrix one night and came up to him and said, "Hey, you're my drummer," because they were trying to have a rock band instead of just a folk singing like the Mighty Wind kind of band, which is what the Jefferson Airplane was.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, it was a cliche almost folk thing. And then somehow they heard the Byrds like we all did. And they thought, man, we should get electric instruments. We can sing as good as those guys. And so Skip was their drummer, but he was really a guitar player, singer. And so they fired him after he was really Keith Moon, not Pete, what was his name?
No.
The drummer for the Who.
Keith
Moon.
Keith. I get Pete and Keith mixed up. Anyway, so Keith Moon, like drummer, because he was just very, all the chicks were looking at him because he was cool and he was very, positive energy. And, the airplane was very serious in those days. It had this message that about the life being unfair, the folk message, and like, and it's that ain't fair, man. Like we shouldn't have war, or there shouldn't be black people being treated like shit. And so they play these folk rock songs serious, but skips back, like playing like crazy, like Keith Moon, so it's like they told he knew it though, and so he wanted his own band. He wanted his own band. I want to play up in the front line. That's why I'm doing this, because I'm a good songwriter. And he did write some songs with the first Airplane album.
Yeah, sure.
So anyway, Skip, I'm just talking about Moby Grape. When we got together, we weren't about you know, what's fair in the folk world, you know, who didn't give a shit about civil rights. We were just about fun, having fun. That's what our idea of playing music was, that you should be out there playing music because it's fun, you know, not to give anybody sort of a message. And so Moby Grape showed up right in the middle of that serious San Francisco shit. And everybody thought, yeah, we want to have some fun, you know.
And I mean, Moby Grape was such a unique band because the five of you were all singers and you're all songwriters, and you in the band didn't necessarily collaborate with the other members on their songs. How does over the years songwriting collaboration, especially with John, getting back to the new record real quick?
Well, yeah,
How does
that's
that
that. Like I say, going to John, yeah, that was an experience of having done something with somebody that I never did before. You know, it's write a song with somebody else. You know, really, unless I was sitting in a room with those guys, and then it became like, you know, everybody wrote it, but it was just a jam. You know,
And
and
I heard an interview with Don Stevenson recently where he praised you, and one of the things he said is that you're a perfectionist. You
you
think
what?
that's is that a fair assessment on how you craft your work, your songs, your music?
What? I didn't get that.
You're a perfectionist.
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 No, man. I'm like, I came from the movie field, or my mother was an actress, so I grew up around filmmakers, you know, and so they were very not perfectionists necessarily. I think what we're trying to do is make something look real that really wasn't, you know, but convince people, yeah, this is. And so the actors, they have to be in character to do that, you know. And if you're talking about perfectionists, I mean, it's like he's, as far as perfecting a character is
No,
concerned, I
perfecting.
might be. No, I'm just saying with music, it's more of it's at its best when it's not trying to be perfected, but it's cool anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I mean,
authentic.
and then, you know, it's like you want it to be more of a creative process. You know, if you get stuck, the movie makers are more like they have to have it all planned out, you know, because if you don't, you know, it's like you waste a lot of money being existentialism. It's in movies, you know, some people like to, I think those movies, John Cassavetes, where they just get a bunch of actors together and say, okay, you know, and they're all fucked up in their personal lives anyway. And so, and just say, go, you know, and then all this shit happens and they get it on film as close
That's
as you
the
can.
moment, absolutely. And
Yeah,
it
well,
was
there's a lot of music that's made that way too.
and when you first got together with the other members, Moby Grape, Don Stevenson, Jerry Miller, Bob Mosley, and Skip Spence, did you feel that authentic
Oh
spark
yeah,
immediately?
oh yeah, you know, we were good. I mean, all you got to do is hear Mosley and Jerry play, and you say this band's gonna be, somebody's gonna listen to this shit because it's good. You know, I mean, it was good playing. You know, like in those days, if you could, in those people still they play even better. Now, I mean, music is like sports where, you know, the younger people watch what you do and they
Yeah,
do it even better than you do. You
that's
know.
right. You set the template. There's
Well, I
no
did, but
question.
I was trying to kick somebody's ass that was my idol too. I
Right.
mean,
Well,
because
who was your idol at that time?
Rick Nelson.
The first Moby Grape album, the self-titled album, which is a
Right.
classic. I want to talk about the album cover. I guess I could start about the album cover. Is famous in part because Don Stevenson, the drummer, is has got the middle finger out, and that caused some controversy.
Yeah. Well, sure.
Yeah, tell us the story about
Well,
that. And
no, that's just all that shit just happened. It's like we weren't trying to be rebels or fuck you, or we weren't into that. But we were going all over Marin County with this guy that was trying to, Jim Marshall, who became a famous photographer, was trying to get this album shot for Columbia. And we were driving here and there. No, hey, come on, you guys, you know. So he had a vision for it that none of us had, you know. But he saw us as these guys that were We're there to kick ass and take names, you know, and America is, we're going to run it now, you know. We're not waiting for the love to show up. We're going to take it now. You know, we're out here to mean, you know, we look like we're soldiers on that cover, you know,
Yeah,
and
sure.
it's like, I don't, it was just because after all that long day of going around trying to figure out what this guy wanted, we ended up in front of this antique store and everybody was very angry at him. We wanted to have the session be over so we could go and smoke some dope or play music or whatever else we wanted to do, besides being there with this guy that was taking us from one place to another, seeing if he liked this or like that. I said, hey man, you know, like at the end, Don Stevenson just was like, well, fuck you. You know, if that's it, you're going to keep us doing all that until you get tired yourself. And then we never get shit. We're getting something right now. So just for the spur of the moment, the whole thing just turned into that shot, man, which was like who people thought we were when they bought the record. So we had to show up and we're going to lead everybody to the promised land, but that, you know, they're going to turn our guitars into, you know, we're going to fight with these assholes here. We're going to take over, you know, going to just take it from them, you know, and we're not waiting for any kind of a peaceful exchange of power. It's like, you know, I mean, Moby Grape was like being seen that way, and so we had to do something about being perceived of as these guys. The guys showed them on the first album cover, you know, but truth is we weren't like that. All we wanted to do is just have some fun, you
Yeah.
know, and so it got to be this weird thing where it was a disconnect, you know, and you know, we're looking for what we want and they just want us to be what they think, you know, what they think we are, you know. And
Did the
is
band
it,
play any role in the choosing of that photo?
no, I mean, when you sign with Columbia, they make all the artistic decisions. That's the deal, you know. But they can sell you. They think they can make you a star, you know, because they have, like I say, kind of a stranglehold. Columbia, being also CBS, which was the CBS News Network, and all the rest of it, you know. I think my mom might have had a TV show on CBS for a couple of years or something, but CBS was huge, and Columbia Record was just a sub company, you know, a record company that belonged to CBS, you know. But CBS ran the whole, and they wanted. I don't know why they let us show up with the, because they're very conservative.
Right, right. That
You
seems
know, I mean, they
pretty
got
out
like,
there.
you know, Doris.
Today, that would be huge. That would get so much press and probably blow the band up instead of having a backlash.
And we were just musicians. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Columbia, without knowing it, they didn't know it. I mean, right away when they got blowback for having the American flag on there, the somebody, some censors, government censors went to Columbia and said, "Hey, you can't use the American flag in front of guys that are flipping the world
Yeah,
off."
yeah,
And you know, you can't do that. So they took and they just made it black, you know, took all the albums they could get and
yeah,
repainted that flag so it was just black. And that was like even worse, you know. It's like we're pirates, or you know,
yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying?
And so
You know, I
how
mean, it's like got even worse and worse until Skippy went fucking nuts and flipped
in
out. Yeah.
what way
Oh
did he go
man.
nuts?
Oh
And
yeah.
at that session or in general go nuts?
No, no, I'm talking about he had to be committed
You
to
know,
an
yes.
institution like the guy
I
in
want to
the,
talk about that. And
like the guy in the Mighty Wind, you
yes.
know.
I want to get to
But not, but more, way more violent than that, you know. I mean, Skip was on a violent trip.
yeah, when did, Moby Grape had so much talent, the five songwriters, the five singers, but it was also two of the main members, Skip Spence, who we're talking about, and Bob Mosley, both had severe mental illness. Um,
Right.
when
Well, I
did,
mean, they look, you know, I mean, those are the two guys that, I mean, when you're, when you're Bob and Skip, it's like not being crazy. But if their personalities are such that if you put too much, if you put too much of a thing about having them just respond to you or something, or put them in a certain position, yes, they will act. But I was in a place when I was 11 years old because I didn't want to go to school. So my dad put me in an institution, for a couple of months. So I'd learn, I'd say, well, you like to sit there and do that, or would you rather go back to school? And so I said, I'll go back to school because they promised to buy me a guitar. And when I was in there, I used to see the TV once a week or something, and they showed us the Rick Nelson was on there, because his parents had a TV show. He played a guitar at the end, and I was just fascinated by him. So I said, I'll go back to school if you get me a guitar. And they did. So I got out of there. But I'm saying, I know what it's like to be crazy or be treated like you're crazy, and you're not. It's just that somehow, you get to a point where you can't give them what they want, and something else starts to happen, like this, whatever we've been suppressing, if you're in a situation where you're getting screwed over, like we were in business because of our old manager that took all our money, and we didn't have any money. We were in court with this guy for 40 fucking years. He
Right.
just died, and we won our name publishing back in the 2005, but it didn't happen. Wasn't going to make us any money because it's like our heyday was over, But this guy got paid while we were all out there, homeless sometimes and sometimes not, But that's what happens to some people in that business, I guess, at least it happened to us. That is what happened. I
Yes,
mean,
and
I say you can't not put that in here because that's the truth about what happened. Now we're going backwards. So we were going to reverse engineer all this. And so I'd say, but why did that happen? You know? And I would say because we couldn't stay in control of this preconception people were trying to put on us or their expectations. We felt like we wanted to um, have it be okay to not respond to something that was happening outside of us. We wanted to be expressive. We wanted personal freedom. We didn't want to have to, be this market item, thing that Columbia was trying to sell Moby Grape, and it was we were not into that whole scene, man. By the way, I have to say this to other musicians, that the money part of it and the success is what you should be doing it for, And in those days, we were just doing it because we just didn't want to have to get day jobs to play music, but playing music was fun. I mean, it was fun being a part of a music that was really something to shoot for. When I was listening to my idols, people that were, inspiring to me, they were great musicians. Not that I'm a great musician, but I know what a great I would want to be, and so I'll never stop wanting to be a good musician, whether I am or not. It's like it's just as long as I keep trying to do it, at some point, that's what I'll do. I
and you
mean, you see what
yeah.
I'm saying?
No, absolutely. And
And
you
I don't think our goals were the same at some point as Columbia, but I didn't go nuts like Skip did, because I wasn't hung up on heroin, and he got hung up on heroin.
at what point in the life of
Hey, I don't know, I
yeah,
mean, I was right there, but I wouldn't know. I mean,
yeah,
that's the weird thing. It's
just
like all of a
happens.
sudden he gets, I was in LA trying to get Terry Melcher, who produced the Byrds, to
Sure.
take over our second record because I didn't like what was happening in New York. We were doing it back there with this guy, and David Rubinson is a good producer. He produced Taj Mahal, the Chambers Brothers, Tower of Power, all kinds of groups. Got very successful. But David was like, we were his first band, and he got where he got because of Moby Grape, but he wanted to be in New York because he didn't want to, leave his family in New York and come out here and do a record with us. A second or third record it was, I guess, or second record, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he just wanted us to have to all go back there. So we did our record in New York, and Columbia has a bunch of studios back in New York too.
Hmm.
And so you know, we get in we leave our families so he doesn't have to leave his and go to New York to try to do our second record. And in the middle of all this, we're still doing gigs, and it's like being lonely. And you know, it's like, and Skip flips out because you know, he's just for trying to make himself feel better through some contact he made at a gig or something. He got some heroin, and you know, well, this will help you sleep tonight, man. You look tired. You need some rest, you know. So he shoots up, works on him, works on it. He feels better the next day, but he's didn't help him with his loneliness and his psychology. But at least he got some sleep. And so the next night he said gets a little bit nervous because you need some more of that to go back to sleep again, you know, and so forth and so on. So at some point he took off. It was like one weekend, and he took off. I was in LA, by the way, trying to get another producer for the band. See, I had quit ostensibly because I didn't like what I saw happening, you know. I mean, not to the band members. So I said, if you guys want to stay here and continue to do this and not be with your families and let this guy have it, whatever personal life, you know, we're in this together, man. You know, he's our producer. If he doesn't, we'll get a California producer where we can stay at home and do a record with our families, and so it can be more of a cool thing and not just as put the pressure on these fucking guys. You know, get him in a room and make him do this record before we let him go home. You know. And so Skip just flipped out in the middle of it, you know. And so he flipped, and when I say flipped out, he took off with this chick after a gig we did someplace, or they did without me, because I was trying to get another guy to produce the band. See, it's like this whole thing in those days. And so I was in the studio with Terry Melcher, and Terry was the guy that produced the Byrds. Paul Revere and the Raiders also produced Jack Jones.
Yep.
His dad was Martin Melcher. Martin ran CBS at that time and was married to Doris Day, who was Terry's mom, you know. And I knew Terry. And I said, Terry, man, we need you to produce our second record. It's just turning into Sergeant Pepper, and we're a rock and roll band, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He said, love to, man, but the rest of the band members have to want to go do it too, not just you know. So right then the phone rings, and it's the bass player Mosley, and he said, I picked the, you know, I remember Candace Bergen was it that was there, and I had taken Candy out a couple times, but she was now Terry's girlfriend, and Candy was like sleeping. I don't know what happened to her, man. She was pretty tight, and then she got, you know, like trying to be a hippie, maybe, because Terry was definitely, you know, I mean, I don't know how much of a hippie Terry was, but he definitely had tried to look cool with his long, you know, he was seen as a hippie, you know, people thought he was, and he was hippie. It's kind of, he lived like that, you know, just did what he got up when he wanted to, and then went to bed and went to the fuck he wanted to do, because he could sort of got a great job and is good at it, you know, Terry. So here's Candy Bergen, and the phone rings. She said, hello, and sometimes it's for you. So I grabbed the phone, and it's Bob Mosley, and he said, Skip just flipped out, and that's it, man. You know, and I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he showed up, he wasn't there for a weekend, and he wasn't there. We did a gig. He left after the first night. Showed up 3 days later with this chick, you know, and they were at this apartment, or not the apartment, but the Albert Hotel where they were staying in New York, and he was with this chick, and Skip had a fire axe, and he decided, you know, he's trying to chop the hotel room door down to the drummer's room to get in at the drummer for some fucking reason, you know, because they had cooked up some idea that Skip was like the reincarnation of Alexander the Great or something, and this chick was Cleopatra, because they had seen what was it, that movie? Oh, Cleopatra. No, they haven't seen it yet. Oh yeah, they had seen it, and you know, and they thought, yeah, we're, you know, like, because you know, she had this thing about taking over the world, Cleopatra. And this chick was like, we met her through the Rolling Stones. I don't know. I don't go into a whole thing, man.
Yeah, do it. If you got a minute, go for it. I'm here for it.
Well, we were just hanging around them for a couple of minutes because their manager was this guy, Alan Klein. Alan Klein's business partner took over for our guy when we fired him because he stole all of our money. So we couldn't play even because we'd signed rights to our name away to this old manager. It's a very long, sad story, man. I'm just saying that we had this guy.
Yeah, you got ripped off.
That we thought was like a father figure to us. And he turned out to be just it's demonic, this guy that stole everything, stole our money, just figured out how to get us to sign shit that made it legal for him to just take every dime we made. And that's what happened to Moby Grape,
Yeah.
And then we ended up with this guy, Alan Klein was the Beatles business manager. He was also managed the Rolling Stones.
Wasn't he a legendary crook as well?
Huh?
Wasn't he a legendary crook as well?
Well, he was not so much of a crook. He was like an underworld character.
Okay.
Yeah. And so everybody was scared of him because if you brought him a restraining order, they'd find you wriggling in a ditch someplace the next day. And so Alan Klein, we got with him because he could keep our old manager away,
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's where Alan Klein shows up, and that's how we met the Stones, because they had a place in New York where we'd all hang out called the Salvation Club, which was like a penthouse of an apartment in Central Park South, and they had the whole top floor made into this club. It was like, or Alan did, because they keep the Stones safe when they were in New York to keep them out the streets because they were like, like the rest of us. We wanted to go out and see what was happening, But the Stones created too much of a stir out if they're not doing what they wanted to do. You couldn't do that out there, get in trouble. So Alan got them this place to hang out, and so we got to go hang out with him there. And that's when Skip got into heroin, and so that's what happened. And then I was in New York trying to, because I say, well, that's the story.
And so
that's really the story. That chick that he took off with, he met with the Stones, is what I was saying in the beginning. This weird chick.
This was all in New York, right?
What?
This is all in New York during the WoW sessions?
Yeah.
And with WoW was the Grape Jam, which you were not on. Was that because you were in LA with Terry Melcher?
I just quit after all that shit. After all that shit, because I just, guys, man, I know what I ask you, it's ridiculous.
But you guys,
it's fucking ridiculous, So fuck it, And then
you came back.
No, they got me back.
Yeah.
I mean, even though Skippy wasn't there, me and Jerry and Don had to go do these gigs.
Yeah.
And Skip and Bob, so we had to get out there and do these songs. Where's Skip? And that was a drag, man. But we did it. We had to do these 2 more records for Columbia,
And
we did those, and then we got Skip back later. It's even Moby Grape. You never get out. It's still happening. It's like so it better be cool,
I think those two last records, 69 and Truly Fine Citizen, are actually great records, and I think they're underappreciated in just the country.
No, they're not great records, man.
No, man. I'll tell you my perspective of it. It's early country rock.
Okay.
And
but everybody liked us, so they were always copying our shit,
Yeah, that was it. This was great stuff. And when you mentioned earlier that Ricky Nelson was one of your heroes, I could.
Okay,
and
but I'm saying but it's just, it doesn't stop at that. It's like then there's somebody like the Doobie Brothers that kicks your ass,
Well, that's we keep building upon the
Well, that's
box
what it
that you
is.
still,
That's what it is. It's like, and it never fucking stops. It's like,
right.
so your goal has to just keep wanting to be a good musician or trying to become one, and then you're going to be sort of all right. I heard Bob Dylan say that on his documentary, like this old, he was saying, well, uh, everybody wants to stop time, but of course nobody can do that. And then he says, there's something else about it, like I was just saying. But that's the important thing,
I want to ask I really do like 69 Truly Fine Citizen, and when you look at
Yeah.
it from your perspective, is it the time that and the experience that sours you on it, or do you feel musically those are inferior?
No, it's just like, you try to document your life in music, and that's all it was,
Yeah,
and do the best you can, I mean, what else? It's like when you sit down to write a song, if you got an album to do and somebody says, okay, well, we need you to give us this, the masters here. And you think, what I got to do here? And so you could write them all in a day, or not, but they still have to be a reflection of your this musical. So what do you have to say to somebody if you're just being asked to say something? Well, something about your life, or something about something you might both care about. It's not just about you, you know. I mean, there's all of those artistic decisions that people make, and you either like the ones they make or you don't. You like
yeah.
69, but it wasn't a quote great record, because it's like a great record is more like there's nothing on it that you would do better.
Oh man, I've got 5,000 records I could call great. It's a vibe. It's the kind of
Well, yeah,
record.
but to me, I'm just talking about the guy that does the record.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy that does the record. If you once you listen when we listen to the first record, there
yeah.
is absolutely nothing on that thing that I would have changed to make it better. I don't feel like that about 69.
Do you think it's because you're a perfectionist? I'm just kidding with you.
Okay, if that's what he wants, if that's what you're trying to say,
No, no, no. I'm Joe.
okay,
I was
no,
just
no, I'm just
joking,
saying
being
that
funny.
what separates that from the Eagles, is
Oh
that
well,
the
you did it before the Eagles. I
well,
think
okay, but I'm just saying, but they figured it out how to do
sure.
it.
You, as
Yeah.
we just talked about, building on the greats. I mean, right here I got the Velvet Underground.
No, I'm
And
just
there,
saying. I
yeah,
mean, what bar would the Eagles use to say, okay, we made a record we're willing to release now, because we've had certain amount of success with these other records that people bought of ours, And the bar would be, well, is there anything on this record that anybody would want to do over and make it better? I mean, even if it involves taking a song off, or writing something else to fit in with what you got, so it makes some kind of general. It pulls the whole thing together like a movie would. It depends on some kind of like continuity, the correct editing. If Don Stevenson wants to think I'm a perfectionist in terms of editing, I would say yes.
there we go.
That's what yeah. But
uh,
that's how great records or great movies are made.
yeah, that's right. That's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
But then when you see them, you say, no, there's nothing I would, the artist has to say there's nothing, at least the bar the Eagles use. And I'm not saying that's the bar everybody uses, but the Eagles have sold a shitload of records.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so all I'm saying is, like, if you can't learn from my mistakes, I can't learn from yours.
Well, I'll tell you this. I would take Moby 69 and Truly Fine Citizen over some Eagles records.
Well, yeah,
Just
because
for perspective.
it's about these guys going through some shit,
Yeah,
and that's what you're hearing.
yeah. When you
Okay,
record, you
I know,
recorded.
but
Yeah,
that's a whole different. But don't you understand? It's a whole different. That what Columbia wants is the Eagles,
right. Of course, they want to make money.
but they were still like, there was enough people that were buying, no matter what we did, they would have listened to it because they liked the first record.
talk about another unsung hero, former bandmate. Actually, I got two more questions if you don't mind. But Bob Mosley, what's the latest with Bob? I know over the years he's had mental health challenges. He was homeless for a little bit, and you had helped him a number of times throughout the years. And curious
Yeah.
if there's any whereabouts.
Well, he lives in Watsonville, and he's got a lovely wife, Connie, who is the head of marketing for the Grateful Dead, strangely enough. But she came to a gig when I got Bob finally. He was homeless, living by the side of I-5 down by San Diego in a cardboard box. And, you know, I mean, I had to go get him. I found out where he was. I went and I got him. And I got him and we did a gig up in San Francisco. And she was at the gig, this chick that was his big fan when he was like in the band at the beginning. We were all hanging out, you know. And then she came to see the band because she was a fan of ours, this chick. And she had become the head of marketing for the Dead and came to see Moby Grape because we were playing up there. And she said, "What the fuck?" It was in the papers. It was a big deal. We're going to play, you know, they're going to play here, you know. And so everybody came to this gig and she saw Bob. Bob was off the wall, man. We had Tyron Porter play the bass, but Bob got up there and he could still sing, but he's like the guy in Treasure Island, Ben Gunn. They find this guy on the island who's been living by himself in these rags and has his hair all long and white and his beard white. And it was Bob, you know, on stage singing, but it's like, who the fuck is that? Bob Mosley, man, you know. I mean, what, because he used to be this very cool, handsome young man with this kind of beetle hair, but very, you know, he was not crazy, Bob. Bob is not crazy. He was a fucking hard ass, you know, like a football player in high school, could fucking sing like a black guy. I mean, with soul, like Otis Redding kind of thing, you know. Except he was this good-looking white guy that played the bass at the same time, you know. I mean, he was cool, and there he was at the end, you know. He was 19 with something or other. No, I mean, when was that?
Early 90s.
Early 90s,
Yeah,
man.
90s,
But I mean,
early
Moby Grape, it split up, and everybody gone like and become like these. And you know, like I had my own wandering years, I call them. You know, then I got back and we did some more gigs, and I had a place to sleep that night, and then I met my wife here, and then we sort of put my life back together for the last 30 years we've been together. But Moby Grape's gone through some, you know, we didn't get to buy our manager was buying his house in Malibu with our money, and when we should have been buying our own houses with that money in Laurel Canyon or wherever, and maybe our career would have gone to a different level, you know. But what happened is we just became, you know, we were back, you know, we got the remnants of these crazy fuckers up there, and their gig was fucking great. I mean, I had those guys, I made those guys rehearse uh, until they got it right, you know, all the screaming and yelling. We did this gig, and she was there at this gig, this chick. And so, long story short, they got married, and now he has a place to live, and he's nice, and he's not crazy anymore. So I'm just saying, when people
Amazing.
try to make judgments about crazies, you got to be careful because it's like everybody's crazy. You just put enough pressure on them. These
I'm very
guys
happy
that
to
I'm
hear.
talking about just had enough pressure put on them to actually have that thing come out, and then people saw it and they said, "Well, they're crazy." You know, so here they are. I mean, who are you? You're who people think you are. People think you're crazy. You're crazy. People think you're not crazy. You're not. You know, I mean, here's the truth, man. You know, I mean, people are. I just got through writing a song about it last night called "That One Act of Simple Kindness." You know, and it can change the whole thing. You know, I mean, your perception of somebody completely flips from one thing to from bad to good.
Well, I'm
You know,
happy.
I
I'm
mean, it's
happy to
like,
hear this.
yeah, well, we believed all that in the 60s. See, there was this thing we had going, and then it got destroyed at Altamont by the Hells Angels, you know?
You guys didn't play Altamont, right? You did Monterey.
No, they wanted us to. No, we said, fuck it. You know, I don't play that. the Monterey Pop Festival was beautiful.
Yeah. Tell me
Oh
your
yeah.
key recollection of that.
Well, it was the first time I took acid, David Crosby gave me this purple haze, man. He said, "Yeah, you're in the club, but you have not been initiated yet." And he hands me this purple haze. So I split it
That's
with the
cool.
bass player, and man, that shit was strong. I thought I was dead. I really did. In fact, I still think I died that night. And
You've
but
you've talked about David Crosby and the Byrds, or the Byrds being a hero of yours. Was that your first time meeting those McGuinn or Crosby
oh
or
yeah.
Hillman?
Well, they had a tremendous influence on me,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
as a musician, So I don't know. I heard him, and it was like, there was they had this sound, that was clear, and to me, it was like what people were trying to sound like. They ended up being able to sound like, and I'm including the Beatles too. They had this this like bell. It's like it sounded like a bell. To me, with all these colors, like the Byrds when they sang. It was like there was no, it was a forceful, but then no, not distorted. You and they did it by channeling certain frequencies. That Terry Melcher helped them get, man. And so I heard that, and I just know I was a pilot when I heard them. I was
And
in New
then
York, or in school in New York, in the East, as a pilot in the professional pilots program, and I heard the Byrds on the radio. And I'd been a musician in high school, like I said, with my high school band. But I decided to be a pilot because it's like you get paid at least. And so I heard the Byrds, and I just got like I just left, and I came back, and it was in Purdue, Indiana, which is cold and nasty weather, and all alone for 2 years. And then I hear the Byrds, and I just think, that's it, man. I'm going to go and become one of those guys. I want to be like that. I heard them like Bob Dylan must have heard Woody Guthrie or something,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So because I'm a band person, Peter is a band person, really. I love playing with other people. And I think that the better you are, the more they let you play, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. And as it's just in the subject of bands, you guys got your name back a little while ago. Eh, and Bob is around, Don's around, Jerry's around. Has there been any idea or talk of you guys?
Oh no, man. Well, if something cataclysmic would occur to make that thing, the only way forward, I'm sure we would agree to do that. But
Yeah.
couldn't be just a decision to show up and prove that we're not dead yet.
No, I would imagine that the demand for Moby Grape is
Well,
greater now
yeah,
than it would
but
be.
it would take too much of it would take too much of a. It's like it'd be an exorcism kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of that. It has to be realigned to itself, in order to come up with that kind of. We're willing to stand up on a stage and do these songs. I mean, there would be it would be, shaky. I think. When I say shaky, I mean something would have to make that an imperative for
Right.
me.
Right. Well, you've been.
Because I want it to, it's got to be something that heals you. Something more than just, oh yeah, there. It's like a flash in the pan. You can't do that anymore. I think time becomes more precious as you get older. I will say that, and I think the time spent putting together a Moby Grape reunion. Because of my sense of what's going on here, would have to be fueled by more than just a desire to prove that we can do it. And that's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah. And there hasn't been any books, like official books, that any of the members have written. Or you ever considering putting your
Well,
story down?
there's a book this guy wrote called, his name,
Yeah, I
I
saw
guess,
that.
is,
Saw
yeah,
that.
that thing sucks. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, but I have a sort of a book written, but like I say, it's in the third person. I kind of use, I don't like even, I give myself a name in it.
Yeah. Well, get
I
it
don't
out
know
there.
why, but no, I wanted to write it from an alter ego, you know, not from a, like I read Chris Hillman's book, which I thought was masterful.
That's
But
very good.
Chris Hillman has no, he's very sure of himself,
Yes, he is.
you know. So
And
that's
then,
good.
and you know, last, I just want to thank you for keeping the legacy of Moby Grape alive through your daughter. I listened to the record that she did where she covered that full first album, and that was
Yeah.
awesome. That must be a very
Well,
nice thing to work on with, pass those songs and that legacy along to your daughter. So
well,
I find that
it's
cool.
yeah, it's interesting working with her. We're going to play Saturday night over here together, for a few songs. I don't get up with her. I don't get up with her every 5 minutes. She can do this by herself now. I'm just telling her she wanted to learn how to play music, and when she got out of college, didn't have any jobs, and said, "Well, I want you to teach me how to do this." I said, "Are you kidding? I mean, why don't you should have started when you were 10. Like, most people have to get a running jump at this, man." But okay. And so I got her out and got her guitar and just showed her how to play it. And then she worked really hard and figured out what I was trying to teach her. And then now she can sing really good. So she's got a nice high voice. So you can hear her and people like her and they have her playing whenever she wants. And we're going to play together on Saturday night, just me, a few songs. But I like playing with her. I
Love that.
like, yeah, it's fun.
I'm so happy to hear that you're still making music. I loved hearing earlier that you said you just wrote a song last night. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal. Thank you for, everything you've contributed, all the great music and the great vibe.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you, my friend. All right.
All right, Peter, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Legends Podcast by All Day Vinyl. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate it, share it, subscribe, and follow us and check us out at All Day Vinyl on Instagram and YouTube.